Okay, this is for, I don't understand this alphabet. Kirill, who says that he is writing from Russia's biggest game magazine, Igronamia. To that. Hello, George, he says. Thank you very much for your time. You're welcome. Here are the questions. I would be grateful if you could answer them before Thursday evening. Okay, it's Wednesday. If possible is, of course. No, I'm not going to do it if it's not possible. I don't like bending the rules of time and space and causality. You remember what happened last time. Or you will. I've also attached the questions in a doc file. How did you get into video games industry? My brother's roommate was working for Intellivision. His name is David Warhol, and I think you guys know about him, but he just happened to be my brother's roommate. And I always thought that I would like to work in video games, but you got to think back and remember that that was kind of a dumb idea at the time, and I didn't have any programming ability really, and you couldn't really do it unless you were a programmer. But I think I asked just at the right time, because I said, I asked David if I could work for him emptying waste baskets for free or something like that, and he said, well, you're a musician, aren't you? Well, I had just gotten a degree in music, which is much more of a lax thing in America than it is in Europe and the Soviet Union and places like that. It was a pretty casual deal. I was pretty much just a guitar player. But I said, yeah, I'm a musician, and he said, well, I need a 10-second song written for Penguin's ice skating game, which became Thin Ice for Intellivision. I wrote the piece out on manuscript paper after I composed it. It's just a simple piece, but I still, you know, I needed to use my 4-track recorder to lay down tracks so that I could hear how the pieces parts sounded with each other, because I'm that bad at keyboards. But anyway, it came out to be a pretty nice piece, and there it is. And I got some money for it, and that's how I got into the industry. After that, people started calling me every now and then. The industry then fell apart right around 86, or around 83. That's 1983. And then when the industry came back, Dave Warhol called me up again and asked me to write some stuff for Nintendo. What did you think at first when you were offered to do music for games? I thought, a job? Did you think they really needed OST? Now, OST, optimized streaming technology. He's going to refer to it somewhere else in here. Where's an OST? OST. What is OST? On-the-spot training. Open source technology. Ostrich stamen tools. Overland security transit. Ovary semen testicles. WayOut. Oh, he goes on. WayOut, an old FPS game, I know FPS, was one of your earliest work. It was actually the second work. And it was my ex-girlfriend's sister's husband hired me for that one. What kind of music were you composing for this project? Was there a specific atmosphere you wanted to create? No, there was not really a specific atmosphere I wanted to create. I wanted something cool and and fun, and mainly I wanted something that would get what Paul Edelstein, my boss, wanted. He wanted something to speed up and slow down along with the music, or along with the gameplay. So I just wrote kind of the first thing that seemed easiest to write, a little Scooby-Doo jazz piece, you know. So I had two voices going, And some of the phrases were 2 bars long, and some were 4 bars long, and some were 1 bar long. And there were 2 kinds. There were slow phrases for the low part and slow phrases for the high part, and fast phrases for the low part and fast phrases for the high part. And sometimes they would change from slow to fast together. But if you went from low energy to high energy in the game, if you went from a no danger to there is danger, then the music would change at the next phrase ending. So sometimes those phrase endings would come at the same time, and sometimes they'd come staggered. One would come before the other, and that was the extent of the magic. So, you know, you'd get a slow bass line going with a fast treble line, or you get a slow treble line going with a fast bass line, or you get them both to change at the same time, just depending on luck. Ultima Underworld was also one of the defining games of its time. It was both a great role-playing experience and one of the first FPS games. What kind of music did you want to create for this title? Did you manage to create an interactive connection between the game itself and its soundtrack? I don't think we really did anything interactive between the game and the soundtrack on that one. I think that they asked us to write underground spooky music, and we could kind of envision what they were talking about, and we went for it. Dave Govett set the pace with the sort of main gameplay tune, which was a descending chromatic scale. I can't remember exactly how it went, but it's kind of na 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 na, and it just went down and down and down, right? Underground. And he's a funny guy. He goes, "Hey, you know, I've been listening to some of that classical music, you know. Been listening to Tchaikovsky and them guys, and what they do, you know, it's pretty cool. It's not that hard to do. Now, I could never do John Williams, but anyway, he's a brilliant guy, and he wrote the tunes that got us started, and then I wrote the title tune to reflect his themes and make it all tie together. But other than that, no, I don't remember it being very interactive. What kind of instruments did you use back at the day? Was it difficult to create music for old games? Was it expensive? It was not expensive at all, and it was easier for me than playing piano because I was such a bad piano player. When we first started, I used a little cartridge, a little music composer cartridge for the Atari 800. I did my first couple of games that way. The programmer would hack into the resulting composition and turn it into whatever language and code his game needed to play back that music. So that happened on a couple of pieces. And then I wrote one piece that was supposed to, one group of things that was supposed to be for an Atari demo cartridge, which never did come out because Atari went out of business right around then. But where's my beer? Here it is. And furthermore, the next games that I worked on required work with, well, the next games were MIDI. And I sort of, I don't know that I was the first to do this, but I introduced MIDI into the composition process. Dave Warhol was already kind of going that way. Also Wing Commander, you know, started to go that way. I know I definitely brought general MIDI into the game world with the Seventh Guest, because that was a big to do. But that's not really that important to know about. We can cover that in our next interview together. But was it difficult? No, it wasn't difficult, and it sure wasn't expensive. No. You had to have a computer that worked, and a 300 baud modem, so you could send your music to your client. Do you think music plays a great role in creating a complete gaming experience? I gotta say, I did sort of dedicate a lot of my life to that, so I'm gonna go with yes. Do you see the role for music in gameplay? Like, for example, in Loom? Yeah. and Ocarina of Time and all the Res games and the dancing games and Guitar Hero. Oh, funny story. I got to introduce... I went to a party where Pete Townsend of The Who was there, and Jimmy Vaughan, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, and Ian McLaughlin, who's like a great... He was the piano player for the Small Faces with Rod Stewart, and Joe Walsh. They were all there, and I brought my Guitar Hero guitar for them to sign, and they had never heard of Guitar Hero. So each one of them in turn looked at me, and as they signed it, they looked at me like, okay, and they looked around for someone cooler to talk to immediately. But one thing that happened is when Joe Walsh looked at me quizzically, I said, well, it's for a game. And he goes, I said, well, it's a really good game. He hands it back to me and he says, we have real ones. So I'll show you the guitar. There's the guitar. And here's me and Pete. Pretty cool, huh? I think so. Okay, you guys have fun over there and try to stay warm, okay? So long from Texas.